At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone, respected teachers and today's expert for the workshop, Vani Madam. I am going to talk on the medical management of the postpartum hemorrhage. So I am going to cover this topic under these headings: introduction, diagnosis, because all the definition has been told already by Dr. Anuja Bhalera, prevention and actual management. All of us are aware that the postpartum hemorrhage is responsible for the most common 35% of maternal deaths and maternal mortality, and major not only for mortality, it is also responsible for the major morbidity, that is the anemia, and 50% of the causes are because of the autonomicity of the uterus. So as we have already heard by the talk of the Sheila, that rapid team-based care minimizes the morbidity and mortality associated with PPH. Why this discussion is very important? We are always prepared for dealing with the high-risk cases, but here I want to emphasize that even a low-risk patient can go for the autonomicity. So every time the obstetrician should be ready to tackle with the this emergency, and so facility readiness is very, very important. Coming to diagnosis, visual blood loss is usually underestimated. Today we have a session, hands-on workshop, where you can see various methods how to measure the blood loss. There are some accurate methods and some methods like pictorial guides in the labor room are most useful. Clinical diagnosis is important, which will be manifested by hemodynamic instability like tachycardia, hypotension, tachypnea, decreased urine output, like that. But friends, what is happening? During normal pregnancy, there is a hypervolemia which will mask initial blood loss, and whenever the patient you will diagnose that there is a tachycardia and hypotension, it is already too late and she may be in a class 3 of the hemorrhagic shock. So obstetric shock index is very, very important. We are reading theoretically, but I think that should be always, we should calculate the obstetric shock index by dividing pulse rate by the systolic blood pressure. In pregnancy, it is more, that is 0.7 to 0.9 compared to non-pregnant. But whenever it is more than 1, it tells that there is a need for blood transfusion. So as you can see from this slide, that up to 750 ml of blood loss, there are no changes in the pulse rate as well as blood pressure is normal. Whenever it is more than 750, you get to know that there is a tachycardia, but the blood pressure still may be normal. And whatever you see more tachycardia, tachypnea and fall in systolic blood pressure, when you will diagnose it is already there is a loss of 30% of the blood volume. So to calculate the obstetric shock index is very, very important, and important thing is to see the mental status of the woman. That is very, very important, how she is feeling. Most of the time we have observed practically that the patient says, I am not feeling well. It happens, so you should also see her mental status. Golden first hour is a time at which effective resuscitation must occur to achieve the maximum survival and prevent the metabolic acidosis. That is very, very important. Again, I think everyone must be aware of this rule of 30. So it tells you the severity. Whenever the blood volume has lost more than 30%, there will be fall in blood pressure by 30 millimeters of mercury, systolic blood pressure, rising pulse rate and respiratory rate more than 30 per minute, falling hematocrit, reduction in the urine output to less than 30. So see, all these changes are manifesting late because of the hypervolemia of pregnancy. So all this tells that 30% of blood volume already patient has lost. So anytime we discuss management, it starts from prevention. So prevention itself starts in antepartum period. So as all of us are aware, anemia is very common in our country. So diagnosis and early treatment of anemia is very, very important. And each delivery you should practice the active management of third stage of labor. So what is it, active management? It constitutes 10 units of oxytocin intramuscularly within 1 minute of delivery. Recent WHO 2020 guidelines, they say that 10 units oxytocin also intravenously can be given slowly. Delayed cord clamping, as all of us are aware, taking 1 to 3 minutes for clamping the umbilical cord. Controlled cord traction, that is the modified Brand-Andrews method for delivery of the placenta, and uterine massage after the placenta delivery. So WHO advocates two drugs for prevention, that is either oxytocin or the misoprostol. This is because whenever there is a delivery in the periphery, methyl ergometrin will be contraindicated in heart disease and multiple pregnancy. So these two drugs are on the guidelines of WHO say, but there can be other alternatives like carbetocin. It is a newer drug. I want to ask how many from the audience there have used carbetocin. Okay. So, what is your experience whether you have used in vaginal delivery or delivering elective cesarean section or emergency? So, the studies say that it is usually more effective in the elective cesarean section, but the cost is a limiting factor in our country. At present, I think gradually the cost will not be the limiting factor. So the other alternatives to oxytocin are carbetocin, 100 microgram intramuscular or IV bolus over 1 minute, methyl ergometrin, but that requires ruling out any heart disease as well as multiple pregnancy. Another can be combination of the oxytocin with ergometrin and misoprostol 600 microgram orally. So these are the alternatives. Carbetocin, as I have already told, it is included in essential medicine list of WHO since 2019, and the action starts in 2 minutes. And the advantage is it is heat stable. That is the most useful advantage over the oxytocin, but cost is the limiting factor. Now coming to actual management, whenever there is a postpartum hemorrhage, what are the principles? The resuscitation and management of obstetric hemorrhage and possibly hypovolemic shock, because atonicity is common leading to hypovolemia. Identification and management of underlying cause of hemorrhage. I have already, Dr. Balaram has told 4 T's and 5 T's now that we will have to see one by one. General management includes call for help. You will require the help of your obstetrician friend, anesthetist, expert physician, and you are actually the labor room should be, you should train your all the nurses also, so that how they can help you in emergency. Oxygen should be started at 10 to 12 liters per minute. Wide bore cannula number 14 or 16 always should be available, and as rightly said by Sheila, PPH corner should be there. Crystalloids, all of us are aware that the crystalloids should be started immediately after having the postpartum hemorrhage. Before starting crystalloids, if IV is not there, you can put the IV line and take the investigation, CBC and coagulation profile like PT, APTT and the INR should be sent, and cross-matching adequate sample should be taken for cross-matching. Very important, because certain colloids can interfere with the hemostasis and cross-matching. So you should have an adequate sample. Establish the etiology, neutrotonics, monitoring of vitals and counseling of relatives. As rightly pointed out by Vani madam, intermittent communication with the relatives is very, very important, so that there are no further litigations. Coming to drug therapy, first line agent is of course oxytocin, and the second line agents are methyl ergometrin, carboprost, misoprostol and the tranexamic acid. Although it is not a uterotonic agent, it is a very good drug and commonly it is available, and it is an antifibrillary. So oxytocin, how much you will give? You will have to add 20 to 40 units in 1000 ml of ringer lactate or normal saline. Give 500 ml in 10 minutes, followed by 250 ml per hour. IV immediate action is there, and intramuscular, the onset is within 3 to 7 minutes. Whenever you are giving oxytocin in very high amount, it can or a high concentration, there may be water retention, and rapid bolus may lead to hypotension. Another time tested, I think most of the people in this audience must have used methyl ergometrin. So it leads to contraction of both upper and lower segment, and hence it is usually not advocated to give at the birth of anterior shoulder. Usually we give 2 drugs, either oxytocin or the misoprostol nowadays. The dose is 0.2 milligram intramuscular, and maximum you can give 5 doses in 24 hours. It is onset of action after intramuscular within 2 to 3 minutes, and it is immediate within 1 minute after the intravenous route. It should be avoided in hypertensive disorder of pregnancy and heart disease. But here I will like to mention, tell you the important thing. In cases of hypertensive disorder of pregnancy, if they get postpartum hemorrhage, then don't hesitate in giving the methyl ergometrin, because already the patients are not tolerating normal blood loss at the time of delivery. Hypertensive women, because already the intravascular compartment is compromised. So they get a hypovolemic shock at the earlier part. They cannot tolerate even normal blood loss at the time of delivery. So there is no, therapeutically it will not be contraindicated. You should be again using caution with HIV patient positive on nevirapine, because it may potentiate the more action of a vasoconstriction. It can be associated with nausea, vomiting and increased blood pressure. Prostodine, I hope everyone is using this prostodine atomic postpartum hemorrhage. So it can be used intramyometrally or intramuscularly, but it should never be given intravenously. Intramyometrial action starts within 5 minutes and intramuscular action starts within 20 to 30 minutes. But whenever you are giving intramyometrial during cesarean section, you should aspirate and see that the blood is not there in your syringe, otherwise there can be problem. And it can be repeated every 15 to 90 minutes and total dose is 2 milligrams. It can exacerbate the bronchospasm, so it should be avoided in asthma patient and also with a significant renal, hepatic and cardiac disease. As all of us are aware, it can lead to immediately vomiting. If you give it on table, you will have to see that the kidney tray is ready. Patient may get a vomiting, as well as it can lead to diarrhea and it can suddenly shoot the blood pressure. Misoprostol, it is available in the PACs, also in the labor delivery tray. So when the trained birth attendant is not there who can give the injection oxytocin, this misoprostol can be given. So it is stable at room temperature. The dose is per rectal 800 to 1000 microgram or 600 to 800 microgram sublingual or orally. The oral and sublingual leads to rapid onset of action, but the vaginal and per rectal there is a prolonged activity and greater bioavailability. It should be used with caution in cardiovascular disease, and we have, all of us know that it can lead to shivering and pyrexia. This is a slide showing the various drugs with the routes and the onset of action and the effectivity lasts for how much time. So we can see that apart from oxytocin intravenous, most of the drugs can be there in the effective for around starting from 2 to 4 hours. So usually for treatment of PPH, we give all these drugs for controlling PPH in patient who had PPH. Either you will have to give Vithargil intramuscularly every 8 hourly, or you can insert the per rectal misoprostol tablet, which can be absorbed gradually and the uterus can be well contracted. Coming to tranexamic acid. In PPH bundle, the tranexamic acid is included and it should be given 1 gram in 100 ml of saline over 10 minutes. And if there is no response, you can repeat it after 30 minutes. Studies, they say that if it is used within 3 hours of onset of bleeding, it is more beneficial. Again, it should be used with caution with renal impairment and in the women who had history of thrombosis. Coming to factor 7th A. Factor 7th, according to recent WHO guidelines, it is not routinely used for all cases of postpartum hemorrhage except with the hemophilia. You can use this in a woman having hemophilia. If there is a PPH, this is advocated. It is because it can lead to life-threatening side effects like myocardial infarction. Now, I have told you all the utrotonics and the antifibrinolytic, but the treatment is going simultaneously. Now I am discussing the next important part, that is the fluid management in cases of atomic postpartum hemorrhage. Most of the time the fluid you may be conservative in giving fluids. The reason, first is blood loss can be underestimated in both volume and rapidity. Initially I had told that the woman may be compensating well because already there is a rise in the plasma volume during pregnancy. And sometimes we are very much concerned, especially in cases with the heart disease or with the hypertensive disorder, that this patient may go for pulmonary edema. So you should be calculating the fluids in that, and you can give the diuretic if required to prevent the pulmonary edema. Blood loss whenever is more than 1500 ml, blood and blood products are required, and up to 1500 usually are managed with crystalloids. Coming to fluid management, crystalloids are mainstay in the management of shock because still the blood is available. This is in our hand and we can start it immediately. They are either normal saline or interlactate, and it is said that the loss of 1 liter of blood requires 4 to 5 liters of crystalloids for replacement because it is not going to remain in the intravascular compartment. So till the blood is available, 3 liters of clear fluids including 2 liters of warm crystalloids and 1.5 liters of colloids maximum you can give it. So the advantage is it is easily available, cheaper, and there are no adverse effects. Coming to colloids, they remain in the intravascular compartment for a longer time, but large volume can have an adverse effect on hemostasis. If we give a crystalloids in a too much quantity, they can lead to dilutional coagulopathy as well as thrombocytopenia. So that should be kept in mind, and we should be in a hurry to give more blood and blood products. Monitoring of vitals is very important, and in a cases of severe hemorrhage, obstetric hemorrhage, you should be taking the help of your anesthetic friend or a physician to put the CVP line so that you can monitor that the patient is not either under or the over perfused. Coming to massive obstetric hemorrhage, what do you mean by massive obstetric hemorrhage? It is transfusion of 10 or more units of packed red cells within 24 hours if the woman requires, or she is bleeding such that you require 4 units of packed red cells within 1 hour, and you are anticipating that there can be ongoing hemorrhage, or you are replacing complete blood volume within 24 hours. This means that the patient had a massive obstetric hemorrhage. So what is massive transfusion protocol? Each hospital or institute which is carrying the obstetric emergency should have a labor ward having a tie-up with the blood bank. So for all private practitioners, they can have a tie-up with the blood bank where you can have a availability of 4 units of O negative packed red cells anytime in emergency if you want. Provision of obtaining specific unit 4 to 6 units of packed red cells and 4 units of FFP along with other blood products. SCOG guidelines, they say that if the patient is bleeding and at risk of uncontrolled bleeding, apart from activating the help and everything, you should send the coagulation profile including the fibrinogen level. That is very important. And if you are not able to get the specific blood group immediately, transfusion, then you can start giving 2 to 4 units of O negative packed red cells. And if you anticipate ongoing blood loss, nowadays the ratio of packed red cells to FFP and platelets has been changed from previous. Now it is 1:1:1. Previously it was 4 to 6 units to 4 units of FFP and 1 unit of, that was of a single donor platelet. But nowadays it's difficult to get a single donor. Usually we get random blood donor platelet easily, and the ratio has been changed to 1:1:1. This is because if you only give packed red cells, there is already deficiency of coagulation factors, so you will have to give FFP. Whenever you are giving transfusion at the rate of more than 100 ml per minute, blood warmer should be used to prevent the hypothermia. So I have told that you should send the lab results. So if the lab results are normal, but if patient is continuously bleeding, then you will have to repeat the massive transfusion protocol. If bleeding is controlled, you will have to deactivate. If the results are abnormal, suppose the PT, INR and all the investigations like APTT is prolonged, you will have to give again massive transfusion protocol and consider the cryoprecipitate. These are the therapeutic goals in the management of massive blood loss by the British Committee for the Standards in Hematology. That the hemoglobin should be greater than 8 gram per cent, the platelet count should be more than 50,000, and PT and APTT should be less than 1.5 times normal. These are the guidelines by the British Committee. We have already seen the For us, the strategies to reduce the morbidity and mortality from PPH, readiness by every unit. So you should be always ready to tackle the emergency by having a PPH corner and blood bank 24/7 availability of the blood products and all the things. Early recognition is very, very important, and prevention by treating anemia during pregnancy and doing the active management of first stage of labor. Response for every hemorrhage, like Dr. Shilda said, there can be, like code blue, there can be code red.
Excuse me, ma'am. Please.
It is last. And reporting and the systems learning is very, very important. Briefing, debriefing, what, as Vani madam said, what went well, where we went wrong, how we can improve next time should be always be done after the each case. So PPH, the take home message is, it is a life-threatening condition. Medical management is the mainstay. Oxytocin is the first line drug for the atomic PPH. Active management should be done for all the cases, and facility readiness is very, very important. So teamwork and communication helps to prevent the maternal mortality. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.